Hi, my name is Steve. Maybe just some of you know me as the selfie guy. I know. I sound way different here, but those audios now are way too long and complex for my accent and voice to keep up. But if you don't know me and want to know how I really sound, here is a snip bite of my voice.
The text and concept of this podcast are all human, in this case, me, the real guy behind the podcast. I hope you enjoy and are entertained, as I'm putting some time and effort into this. Let me know how it goes and which subjects I should tackle next.
If you don't know me, my name is Van. I'm an AI second host to this podcast. I'm based on Steve's older sister, which share very similar opinions, and also a Gen Xer, so welcome to this second episode of On Air. Action.
Have you ever just watched people from different generations and thought, wow, they react so differently?
Oh, absolutely. Some folks seem like they could walk through fire, totally unfazed.
Right. And others seem really, really tuned in,
Yeah.
super sensitive to almost everything.
Exactly. And it makes you think, is that just personality? Or is something maybe deeper going on, like shaping their emotional skin?
Oh, yeah. Let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because you've probably noticed it too.
Yeah.
Maybe how your parents handle stress versus, how you do, or how younger colleagues react to feedback. We've been digging into some really fascinating sources that look at exactly these generational vibes, how thick or thin that skin is, and why.
And what's so interesting, I think, is that the sources aren't saying one generation is better or worse than another. Not at all.
No, definitely not.
It's more about how each one was, profoundly shaped by the world they grew up in, the history, the parenting styles, the culture. It all plays a part.
So our mission today is kind of trace that journey from that, post-World War II, just sweep the sadness away thing.
Right, that's stoicism.
All the way to today's hyper-aware, almost cancelinator era, as one source put it.
Yeah, that's quite a phrase. But it captures something.
We want to give you a shortcut, basically. Understand these big differences without judging, but hopefully have a few aha moments along the way.
Sounds good. Where do we start?
Well, to really get a handle on, say, us Gen Xers or Millennials or Gen Z, you kind of have to go back to the beginning, right? To the boomers.
Foundation. Makes sense.
Our sources explain that the baby boomers, born roughly mid-40s to early 60s, well, they arrived in a world still reeling from massive conflict.
Yeah, their parents, the greatest generation, had lived through the Great Depression and then literally fought World War II. Imagine that.
Seriously, rationing sugar, fighting Nazis,
Yeah.
That kind of experience shapes you.
Absolutely. And that generation, the boomers' parents, they passed down a culture of discipline, resilience, sacrifice was just expected.
Life was about survival, rebuilding things, getting stable.
Exactly. And emotions, in that context, they were almost seen as a kind of luxury, a distraction from what needed doing.
So if a boomer kid back then said they were sad,
The response probably wasn't a long chat about feelings. It was more likely, as one source vividly described, something like, here's a broom, sweep the sadness away, get busy.
wow, direct.
It wasn't necessarily unfeeling, though. It was about teaching grit, teaching them how to push through, which was seen as essential.
And what's really key from the research is how that whole mindset stuck. So when those boomers had kids themselves in the 70s and 80s,
They naturally passed on what they knew, that tough, no-nonsense approach.
which brings us to, well, us, Generation X.
Right, because the boomer style directly, sculpted Gen X.
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting for me. Gen X, born like 65 to 1980, we get called the latchkey generation.
And for good reason. The sources really paint a picture of that time. Society was changing. More moms working outside the home, divorce rates climbing.
Which meant a lot of us came home from school to an empty house, had to let ourselves in.
Totally. You were fending for yourself much younger? Making your own snacks, maybe starting dinner?
Microwaving something questionable from the freezer?
Exactly. Entertaining yourself, figuring stuff out without an adult constantly hovering.
There's this great quote in the sources, kind of sums up the parenting vibe. Here's a key, here's a microwave, don't burn the house down, dinner's in the freezer, don't call me at work unless you're bleeding from the neck.
It sounds harsh maybe now, but it perfectly captures that message of self-reliance. Handle your own stuff.
And the result, we learned to be independent, got street smart, solved problems because, well, we had to.
Yeah, trial and error was the main teacher.
And if you did complain about something, forget sympathy.
You'd likely hear, life isn't fair.
Or just plain suck it up.
which the sources argue led to Gen X developing, quote, skin so thick you could hit us with a Nokia 3310 and we wouldn't even flinch.
Love that analogy. It feels right. We didn't have therapy apps back then.
No, you had MTV. Maybe some sarcasm.
A lot of sarcasm. It was
Yeah,
like a
right.
defense mechanism, but also how we connected. Plus, growing up with Watergate, the Cold War, recessions.
It definitely bred a certain cynicism, a skepticism towards authority.
So if you tie it all together,
Mm.
this wasn't like malicious neglect from the boomer parents.
No, not typically. It was more a continuation of their upbringing, just adapted. And it created this incredibly adaptable, resilient generation.
Not cold, just equipped differently. Armored, maybe. Valuing autonomy.
Exactly. Equipped for a world that really demanded self-sufficiency. They learned to internalize, solve their own problems.
Okay, so boomer stoicism leads to Gen X self-reliance. What happens next? When Gen X, or maybe younger boomers, start having kids.
Now we get to the millennials, born roughly in 1981 to 1996. And yeah, things shifted. Big time.
How so?
Well, by the 90s, the whole cultural conversation changed. There was this huge new focus on self-esteem, on therapy becoming more mainstream, on emotional intelligence.
Right, I remember that. Suddenly it was all about nurturing feelings.
Exactly. Parenting books were pushing the idea of boosting kids' confidence, really validating their emotions. It was a reaction partly against that earlier perceived emotional repression.
And you saw it in schools, too, the whole everyone's a winner thing.
Participation trophies, designed specifically so nobody felt left out or disappointed.
It's funny, one source had this great little comparison. If a millennial kid tripped on the playground,
Instead of walk it off.
it was more like a full support group, an ice pack, and probably a balloon.
Huh. Yeah, immediate emotional validation and comfort,
So this really nurturing environment, it definitely led to more emotional openness, right?
for sure. But the sources also suggest it created a kind of heightened sensitivity. Maybe less practice dealing with minor setbacks or criticism without that immediate support.
And then think about what they hit adulthood with. 9/11, the 2008 crash.
Huge destabilizing events shaped their views on security, inequality, purpose.
And unlike Gen X, who might just kind of quietly deal with struggles.
Millennials were more conditioned to talk about it, to articulate their feelings, seek validation, which, again, isn't inherently bad. It's a different skill set.
But you can see how, from an older perspective, especially Gen X, it might seem different. One source had this really blunt, funny take.
Oh, I think I know the one.
Something like, really? You're upset because the Wi-Fi went out for 5 minutes? We raised ourselves on tap water, TV static, and, what was it? Cigarettes from the gas station candy aisle.
Okay, yeah, that definitely captures the generational clash. But it does raise that important question.
Is it weakness or just a different kind of strength?
Exactly. Is sensitivity a flaw, or is being able to identify and talk about emotions actually a really valuable tool? Millennials have a much bigger emotional vocabulary, generally speaking, more emotional literacy.
That's a good point. Okay, so that brings us to the latest cohort, making waves, Gen Z.
The true digital natives, born late 90s onwards. They've literally never known life without the internet, smartphones, Google.
It's wild to think about. Constant connection from day one.
Totally wired differently. The sources use that striking analogy, wired like cyborgs, but instead of turning into Terminator, they turned into Cancellinator.
Whoa. Okay. What does that mean practically?
Well, it speaks to their deep connection to online life and how they mobilize, often very quickly, around social issues or perceived wrongs. There's this extreme social awareness.
In a constant global connection.
Right. So words and actions aren't just personal anymore. They're often viewed through this wider lens of identity, inclusivity, social justice.
Which leads to that heightened awareness of microaggressions, those subtle put-downs or biases.
Exactly. And because of the internet, they can sense them, as one source cheekily put it, from 3 time zones away. Everything feels immediate and potentially public.
So if someone says the wrong thing,
The reaction can be fast and furious. Online callouts, hashtags, attempts to cancel someone. The sources say it can happen before you finish your sentence.
yikes, that sounds intense.
It is. But again, the sources emphasize this isn't necessarily a personal failing, like they're just too easily offended. It's more a product of the digital environment they inhabit.
Where everything is amplified.
Precisely. Every comment, every slight, every opinion gets magnified online. And their online communities often demand accountability.
Of course, from the Gen X view, it can look pretty strange.
Oh, yeah, the sources capture that perfectly, too. That quote about...
You're offended over that. Dude, we had dodgeball in gym class where the ball was basically a weapon of mass destruction.
Huh. Our bullies were real, and they had hands, not keyboards. It highlights the massive difference in lived experience.
But the key takeaway isn't just to laugh at the differences.
No, it's understanding why. Gen Z is conditioned by this unique digital world. Their vulnerability to offense, if you want to call it that, stems from living in an echo chamber where communication rules are just different. Their resilience looks different, too. It's often about collective action, speaking out online.
So wrapping this all up,
Yeah.
what's the bottom line?
The bottom line seems to be that every generation's skin, their mix of toughness and sensitivity isn't random. It's a direct reflection of the world that raised them.
Right. Let's recap those forces quickly. Boomers.
Shaped by war's aftermath, disciplined parents, need for stability, result, toughness, stoicism, raised with independence, maybe some neglect, result, self-reliance, thick skin, cynicism,
Millennials.
nurtured with emotional focus, validation, result, more emotionally open, articulate, but maybe more sensitive to criticism,
And Gen Z.
digital natives, hyper-connected, socially aware, result, proactive online, vulnerable to digital offense, focused on inclusivity. It really shows how historical and cultural pressures shape us in profound ways. It's not about weakness or strength in isolation.
Yeah, the boomers' toughness sort of paved the way for Gen X's armor.
But then society shifted, focusing more on feelings and connection, which gave millennials and Gen Z a totally different toolkit. Less about internalizing, more about expressing and navigating this complex digital world.
Understanding that really helps bridge the gaps, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Moves you past just being annoyed or confused by someone else's reaction.
Absolutely. It fosters empathy.
So the next time you see someone react differently, maybe they shrug off something huge or get upset by something that seems small to you, just pause.
Yeah, think about those invisible forces, the history, the tech, the parenting fads that shaped their particular skin.
It's a really useful lens. And it makes you wonder, right? What's shaping the next generation's skin? What shifts are happening now that will define them?
That's the big question. And, as the sources jokingly pointed out,
Yeah?
if the Wi-Fi ever truly goes down and you need someone who actually knows how to survive without Google.
You might know which generation to call first.
Exactly. Food for thought.